When you relive your past, your ability in your brain is really fantastic. It, however bad, good it is, or ugly it has been, these things which have been, I will say, they are energy blocks inside you. They don't allow you to function normally. They don't allow your brain to be normal because you're already choked in certain areas. These energy blocks get released when you redo this whole experience.
Very curious to know that you mentioned about your father-in-law, 95 years old. So that is very rare to find. And I would like to know some of the key qualities which you observed in him, which allowed him to explore life till the age of 95 years. Some key qualities, if you can mention.
So I think in many ways, I don't think he ever lived a stressful life. That's what I thought is the bottom line. Why did he not live stressful life? Is because he was very mindful most of the time. You live in your moment. You don't live in, oh, what is going to happen tomorrow, and build a lot of things around that tomorrow, to an extent that you have spoiled your now, you spoiled your today. Now, this is seen written many places, but here is one person I've seen, and I respect for the way he lived his life. Second thing I think is he was a very contributive person. He was never self-centered around anything. He was very spontaneous when it comes to contribution or giveaways. So if you were discussing a problem with him and I say, I have a problem on this area, he said, let's go and finish it off. Let's go do it. And that was his kind of attitude to life. I think if I speak a bit of universal laws and how philosophically these things work out in the mind, I think he gives a lot of room for love and contribution to people, maybe, and that itself gives him room to be healthy. So he stays spontaneous. I never seen a more energetic person than him. Sometimes you question, okay, are these habits what he had, the best kind of habits? Now, he was not a smoker or an alcoholic or anything, but I've seen him, consume so much of sugar, we would always worry whether he was a diabetic. He was not even one single day a diabetic throughout his 95 years, and the sugar he consumes at least twice or thrice of what we all generally do. So I feel, but he was never an excessive eater. Like, he will eat in a very balanced way, but he will eat what he likes. And when he eats wholesome. He enjoys that food. He never takes it for, okay, how do we eat today? Oh, working lunch. And then we start, okay, one side we are working, one side we are talking, with another one you eat with your spoon something. Your mind is not in what you're doing. How is your body even going to, absorb the great food that you're eating? Do we even think about, how the food came on our table? And that, that's one of the things that we need to spend time on. So I think it's important that our digestive juices flow with our engagement in the process, which very often, all these stylish ways, as they call, let's have working lunch, let's do this, we will talk better during lunch. It's all great. But end of the day, if your mind is not enjoying what you're eating, you're losing something there. So I think several things like that, which I've seen, which probably, gave him a full peace of mind, a stress-free life by and large. The only thing I ever saw him stressed up was probably when he's watching his son's badminton matches, for instance, because he's an international player and he was doing well. So that's the time I've seen him kind of so engaged with the game that there is a little bit of apprehension. Other than that, I always seen him very, very, very smooth with how he goes about life. And I think in a way that has helped him a lot.
Absolutely.
I couldn't believe he would take his bike and ride all the way from Trivandrum to Bangalore, for instance. And at the age of in his 80s, and I would always wonder, how does he do that? So it's the amount of mindfulness he puts into his life, in my way of interpreting whatever I've seen of his life, living with him and seeing him many times, is this.
This is one thing which I found very helpful. I think it can help everyone. That just observing these people around us, especially these elder people, the way they live their life, and I'm sure we can learn a lot from that, because there are lots of things which comes from tradition, and when they are living this kind of life nowadays, lots of things have changed, but there are many people who still follow those traditional way of life, and they benefit from that. So we can definitely learn a lot from that. And, while we were talking earlier, so you mentioned about one thing, that you and your family faced an emotional challenge and that affected your life a lot, but you were able to overcome that. So that is one thing I think it can help everyone. So if you can just talk about how did you overcome that?
Okay, I think this is how do I say this? Yeah, this is going to be pretty deep in that sense, because something that we always wish never happens to anybody in life. However much of you know uh, difference in opinion or other things you have, you always believe you shouldn't. Nobody should go through that. At the end of the day, I don't think I've been the first one, and hopefully, I believe I just want to be. Don't want to be the last. I just want to be the last one. But life is life. This goes back to several years ago when my son was 15, my younger son, and I lost him in a tragic accident in front of the school he was going to. Now, I just received a phone call that he was on the road, and by the time we reached the hospital, well, he wasn't. We didn't get a chance to revive him at all. Uh, Now, how is that relevant to what the question you're asking is that we were in a grieving stage, like anyone who's lost their loved ones, severe grieving stage. And during the grieving stage, your mind plays with you in many ways. Very often, your purpose of life is questioned a lot. You figure out what is the purpose of living when you had such a big tragedy. For me, I was so much devastated that I thought this is the end of life for me. There's nothing in life that's going to make me move anymore. And I think it was no different for uh, my wife as well. Uh, one of my colleagues at that time offered me a book to read and said, Pradeep, you might get some solace from this. Read this book. And I read this book of Dr. Brian Weiss, a psychologist who wrote this book called Many Lives, Many Masters, where he had actually interviewed uh, and discovered a patient of his who was actually in her thoughts living a lot of things from her, what she said is past life, what they discovered as past life. It had nothing to do with anything she had in her life. Now, after reading that book, for instance, firstly, I was not in a acceptance mode. I was just not prepared to accept that a son can be taken from under my very nose. That's my state of mind. Somebody might feel, hey, why should he think like that? These things happen, all that. But for me, that was my state of mind. And then I said, how do I get over it? After reading this book, I thought I should write to Dr. Brian Weiss to understand whether there is a soul, whether I can speak to my son, or is there a way I can connect with his kind of experience? And know what? He had already stopped practicing. So one of his students gave me and he also said, look, it's not possible for us to connect for such a long distance. So I have another disciple of mine in Hyderabad, Dr. Newton, and why don't you go to him? And he should be able to help you. And then even that was not going to be easy. Again, I contacted Dr. Newton. He instead gave me another disciple of his who was in Bangalore, and his name was Mahesh. And so I decided to meet him. And I thought I should take my wife also alongside, because it was going to be I mean, she was also going through such a difficult thing. Some of the psychiatrists and people had given us some medications, and all those things that the medication did was just to numb your nerves at best. They'll just maybe give you some kind of physical relaxation at best, but your mind never relaxes with these kind of things. That's our experience, at least. And so we went to this therapist, and with some level of reluctance, because I had read all this, my wife had not read it. So she was wondering, am I going to go mad after this? What is it going to happen to me now that you're going to expose yourself to somebody else? Already I'm mad. That's the state of her mind. Now, the past life regression was the technique or therapy that he used as his therapy. Of course, he took us to a comfort zone. He first regressed my wife, and she was on the bed. She was asked to lie down flat, and I was allowed to be with her at that point in time. And what he did was to, basically ask her to close her eyes and relax. And the most difficult thing unfolded in front of me, which is she was asked to explain, to narrate everything that she saw from the time she heard this news about his death till the last time she saw him. That was painful because she actually started, sharing, narrating everything in a half trance state. And that state would mean, basically, which I experienced later, is that you know what's happening in the room, but at the same time, your mind actually physically starts exploring in detail, as if you're living all those moments again. So you live every moment, every second of that moment, narrating what's going through you. So it's how you see it in your eyes is what you're narrating at that point. So it's very hard to be, your partner and sitting there and going through that, because I went through all her emotional trauma that she went through at that point in time all over again, in her own words, how she saw it. But the most interesting thing which I wanted to narrate out of this is, and there is a lot of learning in this. At the end of this session, which took about, I don't know how long, it took about maybe 45 minutes or an hour. And then he brought her back to a regular status. Okay? But before that, he said, take your learnings, what did you get out of this? And she was crying, sobbing all through, heavy crying and all that. And then eventually, it sobered down. And then he asked her to, ease out and take the learnings and come out of that trance. As he brought her out of the trance, it's magic of magic, I should say. She had become a person who was totally in control of herself, fully. She was no longer crying. I could see her back in a manner where she's in control of herself now. She was talking properly. She was talking sense. She was giving me thoughts around saying, we have one more son to take care of. He has given us a lot. The younger one has given us a lot of good memories. Let's start living with that. She is able to console me now. And it's just flipped over in no time. And she was different. Now, the reason this experience was quite unique for me, because it was like out of the world. We also looked at a few more, sessions where she actually, he did the past life regression to see what was the impact to the current life. So you actually traversed memories which you try to reconstruct from your previous life. But even before that, the child, how do you believe this? That was the other logical thing. Your engineering mind keeps saying, hey, how come you're reconstructing all this? How true is this? And some of the things that this technique came was, she was able to recall exactly what she, her cradle, her dresses that she was wearing when she was less than 1 year old. My son, who went through the regression, also could really recall and recap exactly how he was when he was 6 months old. And because we were parents, we knew, which means he could identify the color of the floor, or he could say what action he was doing at a given point. He was scrolling. He said, this is the kind of object I was touching then, and all those things. And even for my wife, when we went back to her father and asked, what kind of cradle was it? We didn't say what cradle it was. We asked what kind of cradle it was. What was the design? What color was it? And what he said was exactly what she had seen. Now, the learning from all this was not really about, a new experience at all. It's also about the fact that when you relive your past, your ability in your brain is really fantastic. It, however bad, good it is, or ugly it has been, these things which have been, I will say they are energy blocks inside you. They don't allow you to function normally. They don't allow your brain to be normal because you're already choked in certain areas. These energy blocks get released when you redo this whole experience. And your brain has got an amazing power to learn from it and capture that. Once the brain, like magic, it happens. You get that thing, you overcome. And then you are normal all of a sudden. And you wonder, how did it happen in just one second after all this happened? And so I think that's been the biggest learning. Change, when change comes in a manner which is something you're not prepared for, as in these cases, nobody prepares for these kind of things. I mean, you don't start thinking and preparing, okay, if my child dies, this is how I'm going to live. You never do that, but it happens to you. But when you happen, certain techniques, and you should seek help, is the other thing I always say. Don't live by yourself. Don't try to solve everything yourself. Seek the right help. And somewhere you will find the help that cracks open the magic to get you out of the state and get into something which is more stable. And the learning is that from there on, you would have got many, many new ways to address things, because now you put in the right positive notes. Now you're saying, okay, why am I always thinking, why did I lose my son? What is the big mistake that I did that I have to lose my son? Why me and why not, somebody, why should it happen to me alone always? Why is this like that? You always have those kind of questions. We go through those thoughts. What did I do so wrong? Instead, you now flip it and you now replace it with positive thoughts, which says, hey, I was lucky to get 15 years of blessed life with my son, who gave me all the joys in life of 15 years, which I would probably have never got it in that fashion from this thing. Every experience is unique, right? My experience with you is also unique in its own way. And we start relishing some of this experience. So why wouldn't I think of that as the gift I got, rather than choose to see the bad side of it? And when you start flipping every change like this into positive elements of life, I think it does a lot of wonder to you. The magic starts working from them, because now your life, even though it accepts all the difficult parts that you've gone through, is able to now look at what next best thing to happen for you. The least you can do is at least influence and help others. So you can do even that, whatever you do. So that is my learning from this. Been a bit long, but it's a very personal, deep experience. And so, yeah, I just had to give it a full view of what happened at the time.
Absolutely. And once I heard this first time from you, there were so many learnings for me also, and that's why I wanted everyone to know about this, because these unfortunate things happens with many people, but they just don't know what to do next. So definitely what has helped you, this technique of regression, this can help those people. And there are so many learnings from what you just shared, that our mind has this huge capacity, and every second of our life is recorded there. And especially those negative memories, they affect our current life in a negative manner. And any emotion, this negative memory which we have, if we just express that, then we feel more calm, we feel more relaxed, and we have better control on ourselves. So these are a few learnings I think everyone can implement and help get help from this. So thanks for sharing that, I know it's not easy. So thank you very much. So Pradeep, any one most important takeaway which you would like to share with viewers, which they can go and implement in their life?
Uh, I think, yeah, since we're talking with health as one of the core topics, the holistic health aspect, maybe I'll talk about that more at this stage. But eventually, yeah, it's about leading a wholesome and holistic life that helps you balance out many elements. Getting foundational skills is important, though, in my view, rather than learn it all as it comes. There are things that you can learn, and definitely. These kind of experiences, if you start following it, is useful. I'm not saying my way is the only way, but the point is to recognize that there are different ways that you can approach, and you need to find what suits yourself. Okay, so healthy mind is a healthy body, the healthy body is a healthy mind, so it's a complementary thing. Okay. uh, why are we one of the things I do want to ask is, why are we so eager to go into medications that address only symptoms? I've seen many people, the moment you have a headache, oh, out comes your, paracetamol or anything with the slightest fever. Why be so paranoid with all that? Give your body some time. Your body is the most wonderful machine. And if you're not played around with it so much, it will help with its natural immunity to cure you. But instead, focus on your rituals, focus on a clear state of mind. Look at positive end states that you have with that healthy mind. You will end up with those positive health states. How else do you think people with huge, and I've experienced this myself, okay, with something which I will narrate, but I've also seen, when I used to read this, people cured themselves of cancer, after the doctors and medicines have written them off. Okay, people, I know, yeah, one of them is very famous for his teachings now, right? I think Dr. Joe Dispoza. I don't know whether you read his books. Now, he started with, if I remember, yeah, he had a car accident. All his backbone was in splinters, and he was told he will never, yeah, never lift himself up from the bed any day. Okay, but he healed himself through the power of visualization, through the power of feeling and emotion, to build back all his spine. Being a doctor, it helped him to visualize how to do that surgery in his mind, not physically. I was struggling to believe these things can happen, to be very honest. Until small things. I mean, today I'm fortunate my bones are not broken, but I've had heavy falls, and I've been just lucky, is one way to say, or maybe all my practices are paying off. I didn't break my bones, which I should have for sure, when I hit my spine and fell down so badly. Uh, I had my leg injured before I was joining one of these corporate companies that I really wanted to join on late. And one of the best doctors told me you have to put a cast around it, for instance. And one of my friends from abroad, he just attended a call over the phone, said, Pradeep, just try these movements and tell me how you feel. And I tried a few movements, and he said, well, maybe nothing's broken after all. You just have a strain. You do this, he gave me, instead of a cast, elastic one, which I could wear, and said within 2 to 3 weeks, you will get cured. And then I worked with my positive mindsets with that kind of a thing. And well, I got cured without wearing a cast in 3 weeks. Okay, so one is gratefulness to the person who made the right advice, but at the same time, uh, what you put as positive outcome that you feel. I joined on time on that organization. I traveled internationally within 2 weeks, and I didn't, I was fully cured enough to be able to move that without any damage to my leg, which was the warning I got. Not certainly not as severe as Dr. Joe Dispoza felt, but I would say every little thing that you go through. I talked about this back to my mother. One of this, my mother is also about in her 80s. She had a fall recently. Nothing happened to her. Touch wood. Now, again, at her age, with low calcium in her bones, her bone should have broken, because already she had broken her bones once several years ago when she didn't have any of this practice. And today, she is doing her health practices, her health rituals with positive outcomes every day. It's, yeah, you may not be able to explain this with an engineering mindset, let me put it that way. But certainly with energy mindsets, if you believe in energies and the role of positive energies in the way you look at your life and your outcome, I can certainly say that there is something which is beyond what your logical mind is talking about today. There's something more than the regular science. I'm not trying to say the science and technology that is all trash. They are all extremely good, okay, provided you know how to work with that. But it's also important to recognize that we live in an energy system where we still have a lot more to learn about energy and how it plays in your life and what is the power of what you have. How on earth do you really explain all the magical things people do each day, including what you talk about mobile phone. It's on the tip it's on tip of your hands. You get so much of power now. Okay, you surely had to visualize. You surely had to design it in your mind. You surely had to work with several people's design put together. And eventually you constructed, you manifested something which is something which is much beyond what you would have thought, right? How did that happen? So it's a question I leave. I'm not trying to answer everything because I don't have all the answers necessarily, but clearly something to recognize, something for us to work on further and learn and grow with that.
Wow, it's always great to interact with you. There are so many learnings, and I just love it. And what you just mentioned, yeah, the science has proven that everything is energy. And when you start looking at the world as energy, your perspective changes. There is so many possibilities. The intelligence which is there in this world, it's beyond us. And there is one thing which I found very interesting. You don't know what you don't know. That is what we should accept, so that we are open-minded, because we have grown up as a logic-driven education system that puts limits on us. But when we understand these things, when we accept what we don't know, then it gives us possibilities to learn new things. And coming from you, having these experiences in your life, it's really, I just enjoy listening from you. So thank you very much for sharing all these great learnings and experiences of your life with our viewers and listeners. So any last message would you like to give for today?
Well, my last message is just about what I probably said. Believe in yourself. Um, get over the mediocrities which limits us. Very often we become mediocre when we start limiting ourselves to the way we look at things. Delimit yourself. Yeah, you will learn something new every day. And life is really awesome if you knew and if you come to terms with dealing with these kind of things that come with it. That doesn't mean it's a bed of roses. Yeah, but there is something that gives you that bit of information, that bit of learning, something that you can take, and if you pass it on to the next generation the way you live, I think that will be the biggest thing, because a gift you can give, because your next generation gets the benefit of leveraging this holistic ways of life and going one step better. They can live better with that much one more step, right? It's perhaps worth considering re-looking at, meanwhile, our educational models to see how you go beyond what we do today, which is not just about physical sciences and mathematics, etc., but to really build that foundational base of how people can lead lives. If you look at my book, it's all about those. I have put in a lot of simple techniques to start with, but also people can reach out to me if you wanted to. But the key thing is that yeah, there are so many things, which you wait till uh, beyond schooling, corporate lives, HR trainings, stuff like that. You don't have to wait all that long. There are many things you can build in a graded manner, along with whatever you wish to have as like your physical sciences or maths or other things. And that should hold you in good stead. And so I just want to wish everybody uh, the awareness and recognition around this salient aspect, which many people today very easily recognize, but not just be aware, but to convert that into a set of actions with which truly we can influence our next generation.
Thank you very much, Pradeep, for giving your valuable time. And I'm sure that all the viewers will aim for having an awesome life and not the mediocre life. And please subscribe to the Manoj Simplify show for watching more such episodes on being healthy, being happy. And I will also share details of Pradeep in the description, so you can connect with him. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manoj, for this opportunity to not only talk with you, but also a forum where, it reaches out to other people. And I really look forward to people reaching out and connecting. And, there's a lot more to explore and discover together, as well as promote in this moment. Thank you very much for a lovely evening talk show.
Thank you. My pleasure.